Welcome to episode 22 of the Landlady Boss podcast. I'm here with my co-host and sister Rachel. Hello Rachel, how are you doing?
Hi, Marie. Doing really well. How about you?
I'm doing well too. So where I am, it's afternoon and you are well past dinner and almost to bedtime where you are in Bulgaria, which is crazy. But I love that we can find a time to get together and make this podcast.
Wonderful. And we're both home, so this is good.
It's amazing. The stars have to align for us to be able to do that. But well, anyway, today we are talking about house flipping, which is a really fun topic. Anyone that likes to watch HGTV, of course, has seen those amazing houses be transformed, and it's not probably quite like on TV. But there are a lot of ins and outs of house flipping. I've done quite a few of them. Rachel, you've done a few of them. So we have a lot of goods and bads about it, but we wanted to talk to it in depth today. Kind of the pros and cons and different things that we recommend. And if it's something that you've been considering, then maybe it could be a really great option for you in your portfolio. So first off, I think we should get started with what is house flipping. There's different types of flipping. You know, I have said before, like, oh, I flipped a property and, you know, it's for a rental. And people will be like, well, doesn't that mean you sold it? And I'm like, no, it means there's flip and hold. So, you know, some properties you find you want to renovate it and put it in as a rental and get a tenant in there. Okay, a flip and hold. Other properties are better as a flip and sell. Sounds like I'm swearing here, flip and sell, but flip and sell the property. So that's where you buy it and renovate it and put it on the market and sell it. So flipping houses can mean different things, but there's flip and hold and flip and sell, and each one has its own benefits and issues. So today we're talking, I think, more about flipping houses to sell. So it's where you find usually a distressed property, and you buy it at a lower price, and then you want to renovate it, add value to it, and sell it at market price. So it's buy low, sell high, which is always good advice, and our dad gave us that advice.
Yeah, everyone wants that.
Yeah,
it's harder than
low,
you think.
sell high.
But it was almost a year. It was almost a year ago when we walked through that property that you purchasing and flipping, and I remember walking through that one with you, and I'm glad you have an amazing team because it was a doozy. I felt like that one had so much needing to be done that it would have probably, well, which is why you were able to get it for a low cost, because I think most people would be very intimidated by what was needed to be done in that property.
Yeah, well, and I will point out, I did not start with that property. I think
I would not.
You know, sometimes people jump in and say, oh, this will be great. This was not the first one we did. It was 20, 30, 40, you know, so like we have, my team, quite a lot of experience in going in, but we started with a lot simpler fixes. We didn't just, you know, jump in with the level of repairs needed. And I will say on that one, there were quite a few things that popped up like they do on properties that you don't know. That's the thing with flipping. You're never quite sure what you're getting into. So that one, in a little bit, I can go over more details of that one. That it will still be profitable. We're closing next week, but some of those unforeseen things did eat into some of the profits. So
I
you
saw
never
the pictures.
quite know.
It was beautiful. What you did with that property is just incredible. It is inspirational.
Oh, thank you. That's the part I love. I love the transfer. I love taking something old and worn out, and maybe it brings the whole street down, and then beautifying it, and it kind of elevates the entire street, and then you see the other houses kind of sprucing themselves up, and it just causes a chain reaction. So that's huge for me. Is like one of the benefits of house flipping is improving neighborhoods, especially if you're doing it somewhere where you live. You feel that effect directly. You know, I can go through so many neighborhoods in the city I live in and see, that flip. I like to drive by them and see, what have they done with the porch decor, or what have they done with the yard, or, you know, are they still there, the same people, you know, just kind of keep tabs on it. Not creepy, but just interest. They're my babies. So you redo them, you put so much effort into them, and then you sell them to people that you hope will love them and take care of them also.
Well, by 30 or 40 in a small city, yeah, it affects a lot of neighborhoods. That's a big deal. I think what makes a mother flipper is somebody who realizes they need to keep their team together, so they find property so that their team has work, as opposed to most of us would find the property so that we could have a flip. You actually do it. So
I have done that before, where we're going into like winter and my contractor's like, hey, do you have any properties you're going to buy? Because my guys could really use some work. So it's like, let me see what I can find. So
because you don't want to lose them.
No, you want to keep your team. Once you have your team together, you definitely want to keep that team busy.
Yeah.
And so I have been known to purchase a house or two just to keep them busy.
Which is amazing. Okay. Yeah, no, it's incredible, because a good team is so hard to find. And so once you find them, to keep them together, it's amazing. So what are the benefits of house flipping? What have you found to be the reasons? You mentioned restoring neighborhoods. I mean, that's an excellent one. What other things have you found?
Well, one big advantage of house flipping is you get a big payout, a big lump sum all at once that you then can use to either scale into other real estate that you want to purchase or pay down debt on other rental properties, depending on what your goals are. But it does give you some working capital if you're short on capital, in a pretty quick way. So that's one thing I really like. The potential for big profits is there, but with that also comes the potential for losses. So I mean, there is some risk. You try to mitigate the risk as much as possible, but there are some risks involved with it. I do want to say that. And then I also like just diversifying different investments. You know, rental properties are great. We talk a lot about that, but they're also one lane or one way to do real estate. And I do like the flips are a different way to do real estate, and it uses different skills, and it challenges me in a different way. And you know, it's a different experience, and you're learning different things. So it just really keeps me engaged and keeps me enjoying real estate by having those projects.
And as you're doing it, you also are better at finding the next flip, because you've had you actually went and found termites. So now when you're looking at a property to purchase, I'm sure you're looking for signs of termites because you found them in one. You know, just you learned what to look for by doing flips.
Well, and termites where I live are not very common. So some people listening might say, well, of course you look for termites or do termite inspections, but our winters are so severe here, termites are not as common here. And so one flip I had last year, we did end up finding termites and had to rebuild whole sections of the walls. So that was an unforeseen thing that popped up.
But as you're watching that each time, you going to these properties every day, do learn so much. You learn for the signs, because you're going with the inspector and you're like, oh, and then you're going with the abater and you're fixing things. And so like you learn so much about construction. You learn about old houses and whether they're actually on a concrete foundation, like how good is their foundation. You start looking for cracks. You know, I think just the education that you learn in construction by doing flips is phenomenal. It's a really good education.
Oh yeah, trial by fire too, because you go, oh, the house is sinking, we need to now do a foundation repair and jack it up, and oh, what goes into that? So I mean, yes, you do learn sometimes more than you're hoping to learn because problems crop up. But yes, on this latest house, we did not have foundation. We did not have to bring in a foundation repair team like we have had to on some houses. I would say the main I don't want to say problem or issue. Well, the first thing when we got in, there were cockroaches. There was a cockroach infestation that we had to deal with because the floors, as we pulled up floorboards, they were filled with trash. So yes, they were filled with. So we had purchased it off market. My contractor had actually found the deal, which is a great way, kind of word of mouth, as you get more and more experience and networking. People kind of come to you with different projects, and my contractor had found this house that he said, hey, I know this guy wanting to sell it. He's going through a divorce, all these issues. Like, do you want to take a look at it? So that's when we went and we looked at it. And it wasn't in great shape, like you said, but when we took it over, they had moved everything out, but then we found the floors were filled with trash and debris, and the attic was packed full of just trash. So getting rid of the cockroaches was the first issue that we did. Luckily, that's, not horrible. You don't have to rebuild things, not like termites. You have to get it exterminated. So that was kind of day one. Let's get rid of the cockroaches.
I did a flip, and it was a hoarder house, and there was a mice infestation, and I ended up having to take out all of the insulation in the attic, everything, and take out all the insulation on all the walls and in the ceiling of the basement, just everything. So, and then just put it in fresh after going through everything and making sure we sprayed for mice and caught them. And it ended up having to take it to the bare walls. But infestations, like we're talking about, are hard because you can't actually paint an infestation. You can't. It's not something that you can gloss over.
No, you have to get rid of it before you get. It puts everything on hold, and your timeline is affected. Everything is affected. So yeah, you have to get rid of those buggies, and then you can move on to. And we did take out a wall in the kitchen and open that whole thing up. So I mean, we did some major things to it. Yeah. But first things first, get rid of the bugs. So yeah, that was kind of a big thing with it. But besides enjoying the transformation and improving neighborhoods, and one thing that is nice, when you sell it, it's over. I mean, which is good and bad. You no longer have the house to collect rent from, but you also, with flipping, typically finish it, in my experience, nicer than you would a rental. So it's not like it's made to be a rental. So I mean, you flip it to sell it, and so it is finished to a nicer level. But when you sell it, you get that money and the project is gone. You don't have to think about it anymore. There's no more, not headache, but like issues that you have to deal with. So that is one benefit, I think, of flipping. But you have to be doing it. Like rental properties, you could be traveling, you could be out of town. You could be not even at the house on the project, and you could still be making income, right? But house flipping, it's a little more involved. You have to be there, hands-on. Yes, you have to be there, kind of in person, checking on things, involved in the process. So if you're wanting a totally hands-off real estate investment, I would not recommend house flipping for you. But if you want to be right in there and be part of the process and checking on things and seeing your vision come to life and being really engaged, it can be a very lucrative opportunity.
And I think for a lot of people, maybe their first flip, if they don't have a lot of savings, just enough to scrape together for a down payment, the nice thing about doing multiple flips is each time you take that cash, add it to your down payment, you're putting more towards the property as you're purchasing. You can either purchase more expensive properties, which often have a higher a margin because you could sell them for more, or maybe there's more land, or you actually can have a better chance of getting bank loans because now you're coming in with so much more, and eventually you could be your own bank where you have enough to purchase this property, and then you do that property, and then you flip it, and then you take that same amount and do the next one, so you avoid the bank fees and closing fees. That's a pretty good idea to do. I think that's the goal, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because the first one or two, you may need to get a partner, or you may need to get a hard money loan or get a construction loan or something like that. But the idea is you build up enough of a cash reserve that then you can be doing your own flips with your own money, and then you're not having to deal with the fees and all the holding costs that come with using those third parties. So yes, it's a great way to build up those cash reserves, and then you can also, as you have those cash reserves, you can go make offers on houses with cash that give you the opportunity to beat out maybe other buyers, or negotiate. You have a stronger negotiating position when you have that cash. So it's just a really great way in my mind. And you're doing a service because we need more houses that can be sold and people can live in. Like the country in general needs more houses to live in. So you are helping take houses that maybe would be uninhabitable or just falling apart or issues and making them livable. So I mean, it's just a real win-win in my mind. But you have to want to be involved in that. And I enjoy the design process. If you have no idea looking at floor plans or houses, like what should go where, and maybe hire someone to pick out some of the design things, or someone that has that eye, because it's a big part of it, being able to see what it could be.
Walking in and knowing which features to keep, which things would sell, and then highlighting those with colors and with stains and redoing floors, and then knowing, oh, the floor can't be kept. Even though it's historic, it can't be kept. Let's put carpet in. Or like knowing these things. Also, I think you come at it from the other end, which is selling part. So like knowing what it would take to sell it, then you know what you need to do to flip and feature.
Right, and knowing your market is really important, finding what things are buyers looking for in your market, because that is huge. If they all want the same, a garage is absolutely what every buyer wants, then don't buy a house to flip that doesn't have a garage, or just expect that it's not going to sell as well. Do people want large yards? Excuse me, then make sure you have a yard to go. I mean, any of these features, or big kitchens or bathrooms or big master suites, like know your market, know what people are willing to pay for. And then as you are coming up with your budget, make sure that you allow for those things, because you could do all the work in the world, but if it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath without a garage and no yard, you may have a hard time selling it. If in your area it's 3-bedroom houses with yards and garages, that's what people want. So just be aware of that, and the location of it too is huge. You may make the house beautiful, but if it's just in a rotten location no one wants to buy, you're going to have a hard time selling it. So location, location. That's the real estate mantra. We know that.
But right. And I think even the properties that are older, the closets used to be much smaller. They just didn't have as many clothes. But a modern house now has a huge master walk-in closet. So knowing that, you don't want to put a ton of money on the exterior if the interior doesn't have the features that people are going to want. So maybe you look at some of the spaces, and can you make that coat closet a little larger into, flip it and make a little closet that's on the other side. You look at this and say, okay, how do I add a pantry? Because everybody wants more storage for their food. And so these are the things that you can look at, and when little things you can do to make it more marketable.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't do any good to make the outside amazing and then the kitchen's not functional and there's no laundry room and the closets are awful. So you have to think through all of these things, how to use the space well. Is that the house that we were talking about, that my latest flip, there was a back kind of area off the garage that was just unfinished, and it was just kind of a long, narrow hall almost. The nice thing was we were able to split that in half and connect part of it to the kitchen to add a pantry, and the other part was off the garage, and it became a mudroom laundry room, which was fantastic. Every family wants that, right? So it had all of a sudden it was a very usable space instead of just kind of a long corridor that didn't really add any value. Yeah.
Right.
So
so what are the risks? Yeah. What goes wrong?
We talked about, there's potential for profit, but there's also a huge potential for loss. There's all sorts of things that can pop up, unforeseen termites, or you need to add a roof when you thought that you didn't have to add the roof, or just problems that can pop up as you dig into old houses. Usually there's things that come. So just not estimating well, or not planning for those, not having a big enough emergency fund is often a problem. And so the potential for losses is huge too. The market could change, while you're flipping it. The season could change, or the market. Last year we were doing a flip and it was supposed to be done, October. Well, setbacks, it went on the market December 5th. Well, that's a really hard month to sell a house, right?
It is.
It's just difficult with the holidays, and although we had tried to plan and our timelines, we're all human, and there's human error, and so things just got pushed back. And
Always.
so December, so it ended up, not getting an offer till mid-January, and we closed in February. So it was a little longer holding time than I usually have, but it still worked out. But if I hadn't had a big enough buffer or an emergency fund, or if I had needed that money to pay off the hard money loan immediately, like that could have caused some problems. So those are some risk, maybe some bad workers, like if you have a contractor walk out on you or leaves you in the middle of the job, or their workers maybe do bad work and you've got to bring someone else in to fix it. I mean, these are all risks of flipping.
That happened to me, exactly. No, I think my regret is actually trying to save money by having a jack of all trades come work on the house and do things. I found them on Facebook, and so I looked at the price of an actual company to do it, and they were so much more expensive. He said he could do this and that, right? So you have this guy come, and he takes a month, and the company would have taken 3 days, and you end up paying him, if not more, at least the same in labor. And then if he does it wrong, you have to call the company in to fix it anyway. And so this happened to me, and I regret not finding companies that were insured. You can shop, but something that says they have reviews, something that says that you can depend on, that says they are a good worker, and like just trusting that they can do it because they are very confident. There's a lot of confident people out there that are incompetent. Confident incompetence.
That should be a bumper sticker.
Right.
Because they're confident doesn't mean that they're competent. So that is so true. But that's my second flip. I ended up quoting out different parts of the job because I didn't have a team yet, really. I was just kind of trying to build that. And so there were different parts of the project that I hired different contractors and different people to do. And I felt a good way to see the quality of their work, what they did, and some worked out and some didn't. And from there, I was able to offer, hey, I like this one. Like, let's do more projects together. Or I liked how you handled this. Or, you were very organized, and you could see quickly, okay, this guy didn't even finish the job, or I had to have someone else come do it. But it was small chunks of the job. And so if something didn't pan out, I wasn't out tons, right? Because it was just, so that's how I kind of piecemealed the first or two projects I did, just to kind of get a feel for who I wanted to offer more work to. So that's one way, but you want to make sure you get references and kind of get reviews and word of mouth and vet your people, because it could be very costly for you.
And in fact, it was out of state. And so it wasn't until I moved there for 3 weeks, month. No, I think actually I was there for at least a month, maybe even 5 weeks. Okay. Anyway, it wasn't until I moved there that I could be there that people did what they said they would do and showed up. Because being out of state, calling in, video timing with them, FaceTiming with them to see how the work's going, having them send pictures, it's not the same.
It didn't work out so well for you. Trying to do out of state is so hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And some of the supplies would walk off site, and so then the workmen would go and they'd say, hey, where's this? And I said, no, it's right where I left it, by the fireplace. And he shows me a picture, and it's gone.
It's gone.
You just don't know because you're not there each day. So I would say first rule of thumb is to make sure that you have access to be there all the time, at least every day or every other day.
Yeah, definitely checking on things, fixing things, saying, hey, wait, why are the shelves in the pantry going there? That's a cabinet going. I mean, I'm speaking from experience, but just things happen, and you have to be able to address them.
What about the one more risk is actually that it takes long enough to do the work that if the market changes, that's a risk too. So let's just say that when you start the project, you think you can sell the house for $400,000, but by the time you're done, you sell it for $350,000. It costs more, and you end up walking away with $10,000 after 8 months of work, as opposed to, how much you were going to make. So watching the market and make sure that you kind of have, that is a risk. So there are risks to flipping. But yeah, let's get on to steps.
Yeah.
What are your steps, Marie? These are magic.
Well, when I start with a house to flip it, the first thing is I got to find the right property, right? I've got to analyze the property. I first see, okay, is this going to be better for a rental or flip? And depending on the size of the house, if it's a larger home, it's usually not better for a rental. Does it have kind of the features that are going to be better to sell? Then I go, okay, this could be a good flip. And so finding the property is the first step, of course. And the second one is then I set a budget. I kind of come up with a budget. I meet with my contractor. We go through the house. He actually comes up with kind of his numbers and I come up with mine, and then we kind of meet and compare and see like, okay, where are we different? Where are we thinking, like sometimes you come up with different categories even that like maybe, now we've done it so many times we kind of have the same sheet, but initially it was like, oh, I hadn't thought about doorknobs or hinges or refinishing or different light fixture. You don't necessarily all think of the same things, or your budgets might be a little different as you price things out. So meeting with the contractor, setting a budget, going over all those numbers, that's huge. And then I use the 70% ARV ratio formula. If you've heard of that, you've come up with what the after repair, the ARV value is of the home. And that's going to be through analyzing the market, either talking to realtors or having just a really good feel for what other houses have sold, or maybe some of your other houses have sold in the area. So knowing what that value is that it will sell for afterwards, and then taking that number and taking 70% of it, and then you subtract the repairs the cost that you've come up with, and then the number you have left is what you can offer for the house. You don't want to buy it for more than that. So I'm sure you've heard of, the way to make money in real estate is when you buy the house, not sell the house, because you want to make sure you buy the house right. If you overpay at the beginning, it's going to be a lot harder to make money at the end. So that's how I come up with the amount that I can offer. And then I make an offer on it after I've done all of this research, right? I've analyzed the market, I've talked to the contractor, I've made sure that we are on the same page with expenses, even built in a buffer, of course. You make sure that you have that emergency fund and kind of a buffer, 10 to 20, sometimes 30%, depending on how rough the house is, and then make an offer. So then if that offer is accepted, or, we kind of have to negotiate back and forth, then once I have that accepted offer, I'm putting together my team. I'm making a timeline. I'm scheduling out if it needs foundation. I'm getting the foundation company lined up. I'm getting the HVAC company lined up. I'm scheduling with the contractor to make sure the drywall people, like everything's going to be set up. So I come up with a timeline, and then as soon as we close, we can hit the ground running and we get to work and renovate it and then list it and sell it. Hopefully that's the whole goal.
Nice.
So those are my steps.
Those are good steps. Those are great. I think that you just made it sound super easy, and you just
piece of cake.
You put like a year into one little
8 steps for a year.
Right, but that's good because, that's the process. So you take that process, and I think eventually it becomes that easy. Marie sees a project, she plugs it in, she knows what she's looking for, and that's something that has taken skill. So I think we need to teach a course on this, Marie, of what to look for and how to do it.
We might need to. If people comment they want it, we can always do that for them.
Yeah.
But I will say it does become easier. The more you do it, the more that you practice those skills. If you're doing one flip a year, that's great. You're probably not going to hone those skills as much as if you're doing 3, 4, 5, or 10, or however many that you can possibly do. So it just takes time and practice. And do I make mistakes? Of course, I make mistakes, but that's how we learn. And so, but going through those steps, laying it out like that, the more you do it, the quicker those steps obviously get. At the beginning, you're going to be spending a lot more time getting inspections and quotes from everyone and trying to get those exact numbers. But after you do it a lot more, you'll be like, I I know what a roof's going to cost for this size thing, or I can kind of put a number knowing what the kitchen cabinets are going to be. You're going to have a better idea of those costs, and then you're going to have a better idea of the holding costs too. You're going to know, okay, an insurance, I recommend getting, you need to get an insurance policy for construction in case something happens. I always have that, because if you're buying them with cash, you're not necessarily required to have insurance on it, but I really recommend you make sure you get a construction insurance policy. And so, I have an idea what that will cost. I know what the utilities and taxes will roughly cost. So, you kind of get those numbers and you get more familiar with it, and then you can hit the ground running and have more success as you get going. So don't be intimidated.
You definitely have had more experience in buying your properties and flipping them and selling them. I think mine is more in, I usually will, for my landlords, I'll go in and I've remodeled like 30 apartments and about 12 homes. Of those 12 homes, 3 would be like something that I was financially involved in. Everything else would have been for a rental. So my skill set is to go in, look at it and go, okay, what can it look like? What is the least amount of money with the most amount of impact to make this a good rental? And so that also comes with its own challenges. I think both of them would actually struggle with supply chain issues. So we have timelines, and it's making sure that we find a carpet that you can get in time, and find windows that you can get in. All of these things that you need to be in front of your contractors, because if they're asking for it, it's too late. There's some things like garage doors that started taking 2 or 3 months. It just, for whatever reason, what is it? And electrical boxes and fuses started taking a long time. So making sure that you are talking to your contractors and saying, okay, what are the next 2 steps? And then you have the things ordered and in advance sitting at the site ready for them.
Absolutely. And that's something I do, the ordering. And so staying on top of that is a big part of what I do. And something with flipping, when you are doing that stage of meeting with the contractor and everything, with house flipping, analyzing what skills you have or what things you can do, especially when you're getting started, is going to be huge in saving you money. I'm at a point where I sub it all out, but at the beginning, my husband and I, we were doing a lot of painting or laying flooring or installing lights, anything we can do to save money. And so that's something, also taking that kind of self-analysis and be like, okay, what's something I know how to do or that I can learn? YouTube's great. Like, what skills can I put into this house to save money? And that's huge too. But you're going to go into it needing to understand that there's things that you have no idea about. You're going to need to hire that out, and that's okay. But being willing to learn and have an open mind, I think, is really important too.
Right. No, absolutely. I think some of the common mistakes that you've had, what are some that you've experienced?
Well, I think people finish them too nice. That's a big problem. Just spending too much on the reno, or thinking what you would want them to look like. And that's something you always have to be analyzing. Like, is this something that I want, or is this something that will actually be worth the investment and have a return? If it's not going to, then probably don't do it. I mean, there's some things you can do to just make it a more desirable property, of course, but you really have to pick and choose. You can't finish it exactly how you would want it and make every part of it custom. I mean, it's not cost effective. So I think people finishing it too nice or not being aware of what would sell in their area, and so they don't finish it to what people want.
Yeah, they put the focus on the wrong things.
Yes, exactly. So that's important to be aware of. Obviously kitchens and bathrooms are huge. The kitchen is a must. It needs to be wow. Just making sure that you're putting the money to the important areas, because that's a common mistake I see. Also, taking longer time, underestimating the amount of time that the project is going to take.
Right.
That's a common mistake I see. Just saying this should take 3 weeks, right? Well, no. And supply chain issues too. You might say, okay, I've got everything lined up, but if you don't have the windows ordered in time, and then they take 3 months instead of 3 weeks, and then things are waiting and the siding can't be done until the window, you know, everything hinges on something else. So not having the things ordered in time or having the supply issues, that leads to some problems too. Workers not showing up, that's always an issue, or turnover of workers, or so many things.
I think it's always the things you don't know that are the problems. So you put all of those variables in that you know, and then you go forward and you make those decisions. But there's going to be things that you don't know, and that's where your money contingency comes in, because things will always be more expensive than you estimate by a lot, and it'll always take longer by a lot. I mean, I'm trying to rent these townhouses that were supposed to be done in July, and I just was able to move people in this month. And so I was signing contracts for the owner, getting them all ready, and I mean, we're talking it's October, so how many months have I had to put off people, refund their deposit, wait, and he's like 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Goodness.
And he said 2 weeks for like 3 months, but that's exactly what it's like.
Oh, the elusive 2 weeks. I've heard that a lot. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I don't know, because 2 weeks feels like it's close. A month doesn't, right? But 2 weeks also puts it out that they've just put you off another 2 weeks. But I don't know why that's the phrase. But I think that underestimating the time, underestimating the money, and
underestimating closing costs too. If people don't plan for taxes, for utilities, if you end up doing it all through the winter and it's a few $100s a month in utilities, and you're not budgeting for that, could be thousands added up. You know, there's just so many different areas that can, or not realizing the zoning or getting the proper permits, that could be a problem too. If the city, if you don't get the right permits, and then the city comes back and gets you know, making sure, shuts you down, then you're just sitting and taking more time and trying to do that. So making sure that you get the proper permitting. I mean, there's some areas that you have to know and you have to do, or else you're in trouble.
Until it comes up, you won't know. But and asking questions, always ask the bank, what will they be looking for before you apply for the loan? The contractor, what do you not cover? What are some common things that owners think you cover that you don't? That's when you find out that they don't cover the digging the well, or they don't cover, you know, there's just always these random things. They don't actually do the driveway. They don't do, you know, things in your head, you picture that this amount that they're offering, that they say it's going to cost, will be the project finished. But that's not going to be it. And so it won't cover many things. So you want to know what things are that they don't cover. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would say, you know, if it's something that interests you, house flipping can be a very lucrative endeavor. Obviously, we've discussed it has a lot of risks, but it also has a lot of advantages. So if it's something that interests you, I would do your research and try it out. You know, see how it goes for you. It's been a great way that I've been able to build up cash reserves to scale, and I've been able to scale my real estate portfolio much quicker because of adding flips in there at the same time. Some people call me crazy because it just adds a lot of busyness too and crazy projects, but it's a really great way to expand your portfolio and just learn some amazing skills and do great things for your community and neighborhood. So I would highly recommend it.
Well, I admire all of the energy you've been putting in such a short amount of time, a couple years, and that you've built a wonderful portfolio and all these skills. And so it was fun going to Indiana and actually seeing your projects. I love driving by the ones that you've already done. It was really, really cool. And your kids were so proud. They're like, that's Mom's house. That's Mom's house.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a fun journey. And this week on our Facebook and Instagram, we're going to be highlighting some of those projects. So check that out if you want to see some before and afters or some walkthroughs of this current project that we were discussing. That's on our Facebook and Instagram this week. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a 5-star review and subscribe and share. We would love to help other real estate investors accomplish their goals and dreams. And remember, no one can manage your properties as well as you.